detained in these detention centers, which are operated by private companies contracted by ICE. The request, which carries no legal weight, will be submitted to state prosecutors and the Justice Department. It will be accompanied by civil lawsuits against the companies that operate the detention centers. Scheinbaum said Mexico decided to escalate its complaints after an ICE agent killed Mexican citizen Lorenzo Salgado Araujo in Houston this week. I'm Ed Donahue.
Iran's late to arrest Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei after days of mourning. He was killed in a strike at the start of the Iran war. John Gambrell reports the U.S. and Iran continued to exchange fire Thursday.
In Iran, they say bridges apparently were targeted again for the first time since this ceasefire has been put in place. President Trump had threatened to begin targeting infrastructure in Iran over its continued attacks on ships trying to go through the Strait of Hormuz through a route around Oman to the south. Tehran doesn't like that. It wants to control the Strait of Hormuz and decide what ships go through, potentially even charging fees.
Ukrainian drones hit more oil facilities in Russia Thursday and set 2 oil tankers ablaze in the Sea of Azov. Ukraine's strikes have triggered a fuel crisis in Russia. And former Olympian David Hearns pleaded not guilty to deliberately damaging the Lincoln Memorial reflecting pool. His attorneys argue the charges are based on what they call a concocted narrative about the problems with the multi-million-dollar renovation President Trump ordered. This is AP News. It's midsummer, but just around the corner,
it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas in Denmark. Dozens of people dressed as Santa, Mrs. Claus and elves from around the world have descended on Aalborg, Denmark's 4th largest city, for the nation's annual World Santa Claus Congress. It's a colourful midsummer tradition that has delighted onlookers since 1957. The event was created to entertain children, but became a popular gathering for Santas who appear in stores and shopping malls over the festive period. For Simon Brons, chairman of Danish Santa Claus Guild, the event is proof that the festive spirit isn't just for Christmas.
Christmas is not a season. It's a feeling you have in your stomach. So if you want, you can have Christmas the whole year.
I'm Karen Chamas.
There are more stories at apnews.com. I'm Ben Thomas. Thanks for listening.
KGUM-FM, Dedido. Powered by Glimpses Media.
Hafaday, Guam! The Guam Hotel and Restaurant Association invites you to the Fair Trade Show, Guam's premier hospitality and food service event. Join us August 19th and 20th at the Hyatt Regency Guam from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Experience hands-on training sessions and exciting culinary competitions featuring professionals, apprentices, and pastry talent. Discover new products, connect with suppliers, and celebrate Guam's hospitality industry. Don't miss Fair 2026. Visit GHRA.org for details.
Pat's Tinting and Detailing is bringing the shine this July with our Liberation Detailing Specials, starting at $110. From Jigo to Malesu, we got you covered. Call 647-SLAM or WhatsApp 483-7522. Viva Guam!
Celebrating America's 250th birthday. Public libraries, fire departments, the post office, lightning rods that save lives, the Declaration of Independence. They all have one person in common, Benjamin Franklin, one of our nation's most important founders.
Ben Franklin, he was the world's most famous scientist in his day. He's not remembered here as that. He's remembered as a founding father.
As U.S. ambassador to France, he convinced their powerful monarchy to back a risky rebellion that helped the 13 colonies win the battle against Britain to create the United States. His experiments with a kite proved that lightning was electricity. He helped write the Declaration of Independence and was a leading voice at the Constitutional Convention.
People are meeting him and they're going, it's like talking to a 20-year-old. His mind is so open.
He was a master of science, politics, diplomacy, and culture. And America would look very different if it weren't for the man born in poverty who rose to become one of the most influential figures of the 18th century.
Hafaday, Guam, over the last 2 years, we have built strong relationships, opened new doors, and created real opportunities for our island. Those partnerships continue to grow stronger, and together, we are making meaningful progress for Guam. Early voting for 2026 primary elections begins July 9th and runs through July 25th at the Westin Resort. Tuesdays through Saturday from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Now is not the time to lose momentum. The foundation has been laid. The relationships have been built, and opportunities before Guam have never been greater. Your vote will help ensure we continue moving forward together. I humbly ask for your support and your vote. Let's keep building a stronger future for Guam. I'm James Moylan, a candidate for Congress, and I approve this message.
Paid for by James Moylan for Congress. David L. Camacho, Treasurer.
Got friends who still haven't switched to GTA? Now's the time to give them a nudge, because you can get up to $150 just for sending them our way. Refer a friend who signs up for a single service like wireless or internet, and you'll score $100. And if they go for a choice bundle, that's a cool $150 in your pocket. It's simple, it's sweet, and it pays to share. Visit GTA.net to start referring today. GTA, we start with you. Terms and conditions apply. Visit GTA.net for more information.
The road to Adelup is in full swing. We recently spoke with Democrat candidates Lieutenant Governor Josh Tenorio and Senator Tina Munilla Barnes to learn more about their vision for Guam. Catch the full conversation that took place on May 26th on the Wave 105's YouTube channel. This is a glimpses of Guam radio station.
On to the U.S. Navy and Qatar. While Supreme Leader Ayatollah
2:07 in the afternoon. Welcome to the show. Let's bring up the host, Mr. Paulie Suba. Buenas.
We do want to thank our sponsors of the Bright Side, and that is Triple J. Don't forget, get that free $500 gas card when you drive home with a new Ford truck. Visit triplejguam.com and get pre-approved instantly. Subway, you got to refresh to be fresh. Chili's Grill and Bar. At Chili's, more life, great food, and memories happen here. Micropack, from Bose to Sony and more. Micropack is Guam's home for quality electronics. And GTA, we start with you. 671-922-1051 or 1052. We are online, thewave105.com, as well as our YouTube channel, Wave 105.1 FM Guam. It's time for the Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness Center Hour here on Wave 105. And joining us today is Isa Pablo and Paul Mendoza. Half a day. Hi. And so we'll start with Isa. Isa, if you can remind us, because I'll be honest, I forgot what division you work for at Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness Center.
So I'm in the program called AOT, which stands for Assisted Outpatient Treatment.
Okay. So we did talk about this before.
Briefly.
Got it. Got it. Okay. And Paul, are you also part of AOT?
Yes, I am the case manager for the AOT program.
Okay. And before we even get into that, I just want to make sure that you guys are all good, everything taken care of at home and at work with the storm.
Yes, thankfully.
Yeah. How did Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness Center, how'd you guys fare for the typhoon?
As far as I'm concerned, or as far as I know, everyone seems to be doing okay.
Nice.
I spoke to a bunch of people from the different floors.
Yeah.
Everyone seems to have no damages, thankfully, and we're looking to get back up and running.
Okay. And what we noticed, even with Sinlaku, we noticed that in the JIC reports, before, during, and after, they always share the 24/7 warm line, right? 988, right? That you can always call and text. And so just noticing the importance of mental health, right, throughout a storm. That can be very stressful, especially one after another, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about assisted outpatient treatment. Actually, not a little, a lot, because we're going to focus the entire hour on assisted outpatient treatment. And so you shared what AOT stands for, but if you can go into more detail.
Of course.
Yeah.
So the best way to describe the AOT program is that it is both a legal and a clinical safety net.
All right.
So it's a specialized program designed for individuals with severe mental illness who have a proven track record of struggling on their treatment plans when they're left on their own.
All right. And so when we think about these severe persistent mental illness, that can feel like we're just constantly going through the same things over and over and over, and not being able to get out of like a recurring event, right?
Yeah.
And so talk to me about constantly dealing with mental health crises and emergency room visits or even arrests.
So it's funny. Sorry, not funny. It's interesting you mentioned that sort of like cycle because that is a cycle that we see too often. You know, an individual might experience a severe mental health illness crisis. They might end up in GMH, like you mentioned, or even get arrested because things might have escalated at home. And then oftentimes GBHWC will step in, we get them stabilized, and then they get the medication they need. And once they start feeling better, they return home. But then the symptoms start to fade. And because of the nature of their illness, they might think, hey, I'm cured. I don't need the pills anymore. Or they end up just losing track of their outpatient appointments.
Right. So many of our consumers, they veer off track with their treatment plans, and that's what AOT is for. We're a community-based program. Instead of waiting for a full crisis or resorting to long-lasting GMH, hospitalizations, we have a team dedicated to tend to the individual's needs. So we have clinicians, case managers, just everybody involved to help them safely stay on track with their treatment plan.
Because the goal is for the individual to keep their independence, right? Yeah. And so I know that there's a term, right? And I don't know how to pronounce this, or there's a clinical term, right?
So that is called anosognosia.
Okay.
That is basically the individual's inability to recognize their own mental illness. Like they may be in denial, or they're just not seeing it, and they really just don't recognize that there is something going on with them. So when that happens, maybe another crisis, another admission, trip to the hospital, the police. So when they stop treatment and their symptoms start coming back, they're back in the legal system, whatever the case may be. So it can be overwhelming for that person and the families involved, and it really just kind of feels everybody involved feeling helpless.
Right. And then, like, we're talking about this vicious cycle or this treadmill that just won't end.
Right.
Sometimes we set goals, especially like if I'm on a treadmill, I'm going for 15, I'm going for 30, I'm going for an hour maybe. My goal is 20,000 steps, but that's only when I'm in Japan on vacation. But I know where the end goal is. But a lot of times, it is a vicious cycle. There's no end, and that can be very stressful, not just on the individual it's very important. We can't forget about the individual and their mental stability, right?
Yeah.
But then the family and their support system, but then also the system in general, the community in general too. Because I think also what happens is sometimes somebody becomes notorious, right? And so sometimes it's a recurring issue within the community or at a specific store or at a specific street. And the villagers or the residents in the area know exactly who lives in this house. They know the name, and they're not, I don't want to say they're not providing solutions, but maybe we're being insensitive because we don't know what is actually happening. Yeah. And so how, if we can kind of talk about the specific program that is designed to step in and break that cycle. So again, the individual has that independence.
Right. So AOT, again, it stands for Assisted Outpatient Treatment.
Yeah.
And the best way to describe it is, like Paul said, a legal and clinical safety net.
Yeah. So what we're trying to do essentially is to provide the consumers that we have with us sort of like a way to keep them accountable for their own treatment program, but it also keeps us accountable in that way where we have to provide the continuous care, the medication, getting them to their clinical appointments, things of that nature. So we're trying to be we're going to be with them every step of the process, making sure that everything is going through with them.
Okay. And so when we talk about going every step of the way, like, is that daily? Is that weekly?
So AOT is meant to be an intensive case management,
Yeah.
right? So we are heavily involved in their treatment plans
Yeah.
with the case manager, the family specialist, our counselor, the clinicians. So we all have to work together a little bit more closely in this team to make sure that the individual doesn't have another repeated admission or trip to the hospital or
Yeah.
incarceration. So it would be honestly as needed
Yeah.
to make sure that we are doing our part because we are
Sure.
legally bound to their treatment.
Okay, I imagine it's you have everybody's contact information.
Mhm.
The
Yeah.
family member has your contact
Yes.
information, right?
Mhm.
And do you only step in when there is an I don't want to say an issue, but when there is a concern, or is there a constant communications even on days where things are great?
There must be a constant.
Yeah. Mhm.
Like even if things are pretty smooth,
Yeah.
you just have to check in anyways, whether it,
Yeah.
even if it is with the individual themselves, or maybe you just want to go a little further and contact their support systems
Sure.
to make sure that everything's kind of lining up. And
Yeah.
maybe if there's a different story, then that's where we really have to step in again and make sure that everything is going as it's supposed to be with our patients, and the family is also feeling supported as well.
Yeah, I think you also grow with your consumers, right? You kind of relate and know what they're into, what helps them, what can calm your consumer down.
Yeah.
Maybe a movie, maybe
Yes.
a sport or an activity, right?
Having that rapport is really important because
Yeah.
they feel like they can trust you.
Yeah.
So it makes that connection and us helping them to feel a lot better. Like overall, everybody
Sure.
feels supported in some way.
Yeah.
And in every way.
Do you ever even have a relationship with neighbors?
Oh, it would depend sometimes. So if the neighbor themselves would have like a close connection to
Yeah.
one of our consumers, then of course we would interact with them as well.
Right.
But it like Isa said, it would be a case-to-case basis.
Yeah. Yeah, because when we have these recurring cases, right? Sometimes it's happening right outside the street. Sometimes your consumer could be, correct me if I'm wrong, walking into the wrong yard, right? And not understanding that this is not where they have permission to be, right? And so sometimes, when we have compassion and we have empathy, a neighbor is very understanding, right? And says, you know what, I get this, I understand this, I want to be part of the solution. And I think that's kind of like the community that I know and love, and I know our community here in Guam is the example to so many other communities that can reflect that kind of compassion.
Yeah.
And so sometimes we have to remind ourselves that we are a community. We come from a long history of people that
Help each
other.
other.
Yeah, absolutely. And when it comes to mental health, sometimes it is really just a misunderstanding, and not putting yourself in other people's shoes, right? Yeah. And so, do you have just generalizing? Do you have examples of that?
Like people in the community.
Yeah. Like, who are your rock star community members, nonprofit organizations? I could think of a number of people that go above and beyond. Miss Juanita Blas over at Isang Song Corazon, Island Girl Power. I can think of West Care. I can think of Menyetlu.
Yeah, we have West Care,
Yeah.
Minyatlu.
Yeah.
There's Togi as well. They
There you
provide
go.
a lot of the
Especially
transportation.
for transportation,
Yeah.
that's so vital.
Right. Yeah, I guess, we can talk a little bit about transportation, right? Because you're going out there to where where your consumer is a
Mhm.
lot of times, right? Yeah. You get the phone call from a parent or a guardian and say, I could use your help right now. And are you saying bring them to us? I imagine you're saying we'll
head
come
over. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it would depend. So sometimes the consumer wouldn't want to be at home, or they would be somewhere else, and then we would just communicate, okay, where are you at? We can meet you where you're at
Yeah.
instead. And then from there we can do the check-ins, we can see how they're doing, how they've been doing, if their medication is up to date, if they've been keeping up, just with treatment. So for example, if they've been seeing counseling, we're responsible for making sure that they go to their appointments and keeping on top of the rest of their treatment.
Okay. And so when you're saying you're there all step of the way, sometimes there are issues with transportation. Sometimes there are issues with a guardian not being able to be there.
Yes.
Can you attend?
Yes, absolutely. So that's a big part really of what we do is
Yeah.
that we have to go out to them, whether they're in a crisis or not.
Sure.
If they need something, whether it's especially appointments
Yeah.
that they need to attend, just really any concerns that, again, case by case, but we will go out to them and address their concerns. And if there's more that we can do to help them on the spot. Maybe they are approaching a crisis. We can definitely de-escalate before having to bring them in ourselves for an evaluation and possible admission. So we go out there as their team, right? To trust us to de-escalate and stabilize them.
I know I keep talking about like parents or guardians, but do you have, again, the goal is independence. Do you have adults that are completely independent that are in the program, and there really isn't another support system or somebody that they lean on daily and only lean on AOT?
Well, not in AOT exactly, but we have many consumers just within the department that are very much in that position. They do rely on their case managers to help them with setting up housing.
Yeah.
Many times they are able to arrange their transportation. Like they have GURA passes, and they just have to call and schedule.
Right.
But sometimes they still need that help, and we would just have to,
Yeah.
continue to encourage them. You can do this, and just be that continuous support. Whether they have, family that kind of checks in on them.
Sure.
Not as much as we would like, but if
Right.
they're there to some extent, we have to remain kind of their anchor, because they do
Yes.
heavily rely on us to assist them with so many things.
Yeah. Because I think also the goal is to keep families together, right? And so you're always trying to make sure that they stay in communication with it. Because I can see the other side too. I can see a family member saying, you know what, they're over 18 and I can't do it anymore. But the conversation should always be like, this is your brother. This is your daughter. Let's see how we can, there's unconditional love for sure when they are your blood, right? However, the reality is sometimes we
It's
are.
too much.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's exactly why the AOT team consists of multiple roles. So the clinician, the case manager, like me, we are more of the medical, making sure everything is set up.
Sure.
But then ISA, we have both peer and then family support specialists. So
Yeah.
ISA would be the one who would be in communication with the family members, just helping them through, trying to understand the processes, try to reintegrate them back into their own lives, just to help them understand a little bit more of the case, because we would be handling a lot of the heavy lifting in terms of treatment, so that way they can start, just returning to some form of familiarity within their family.
Many times, the burnt out support also needs support. So that's, we try to have that connection. Sometimes families and other forms of support systems to our patients, they need that space, which is very understandable. But, we have to just communicate to a level of where they understand like they can't completely just not be in their lives, no matter how badly like they've been hurt or what they've been through with their loved ones. But it's just trying to ground them in that, like you said, unconditional love. Like, you know, you can love somebody from afar, but still continue to support them. You know, you may not be involved as much as we would like them to be, because they really do. Family is so important. You really do need that aspect to be so strong in your lives, like whether you have a mental illness or not. So we just try to make sure that there's a bridge there that everybody can come to in some, you know, way and in some point of time to have that support for our consumers still there if we can't be. But of course we will be.
Right, absolutely. And when we think also about the support system, right? Where are we at too with the navigation? You kind of shared a little bit about it, or I think you shared a good amount. But when it comes to trying to get services, it can be tough for somebody like myself, even like navigate services. There's a couple places when it comes to like DRT, right? There's a place where you can go get your driver's license, but then there's another place to go get your what do you call it? The license plates, right? And safety inspections and whatnot, right? And so there are agencies are spread out all over the island. So that can be difficult just for an individual like myself. And so do you heavily assist in getting them government services too, and taking them to different agencies?
Yeah, we would have to do that. Yes. And I don't want to say like it's all the time because we're supposed to help them to, you know, live independently. So again, case by case basis, every individual is different. So we would just honestly help as much as we can to get them to where they can feel like they have their footing and they can have that confidence to do these things on their own. And of course, we'll help them continue to and check in, make sure everything is, you know, going as well as it should be. Like with appointments, we'll remind them. Maybe they already knew and they already called to confirm, like that'd be great. So if they need a ride or not, we would just have to be there to make sure that they're doing, they're doing their part in their treatment plan as well.
Okay. And so I imagine GRTA then is a transportation system that they would utilize. And then you had shared also you can get the stipends to use public transportation. What if you get the concern that transportation isn't reliable, because just the individual will say it's not reliable?
Yeah, well, in most cases, we, like I mentioned before, we have TOGI, and if someone is within Guam Behavioral Health, they will always have the option to go with TOGI, and then TOGI will be the ones who can send them to the clinical appointments as well, or to any hearings and things like that for the court, and then we would be there with them as well.
Yeah, because I hope is not happening. I don't think it is, but an individual that is needing more support is just waiting long hours, 2-3 hours, for the transit to come and pick them up, to take them to their appointment, to take them home from the clinic. And so that is something that is a worry of mine too, like to be honest, when we hear some of the concerns from the community about long wait times at transportation bus stops. And so do you get those kinds of calls?
Like with our consumers and the waiting time, not as often as maybe other social workers do. But it could also be the case of perhaps they were late. Also, like that is also a reason. Like sometimes they, you know, they're there, they think the bus just didn't come. Come to find it was maybe a little bit early, but you know, every case is different. I don't want to speak for everybody.
No, I get it. I understand. And usually your consumers, they have the phone numbers too, right? To make sure that they don't feel neglected.
Yes.
And if they're with us, again, we'll make sure that they do make their appointments or wherever they need transportation to.
Yeah.
Because again, we want to make sure that they're staying on track with everything that is court ordered.
Yeah. Okay. So that's a good time to take a break. Court orders, right? And the judicial system. And so let's take the break. And then on the other side of that, I definitely want to know more about assisted outpatient treatment and how it relates to these court orders and how the court system also supports our consumers. And so we'll take the break now. This is Wave 105.
Wave 105, the talk of Guam. Real voices, real stories, right here at home.
Guam is building the future, and the right conversations start here. SCME Guam Post invites you to the 2026 Industry Forum happening July 28 through 30 at the Dusit Tani Resort. Join military, government, and industry leaders as they come together to discuss Guam's future in infrastructure, resilience, and regional growth. This premier event connects you to Guam's next generation of infrastructure. Registration is open. Visit GuamIndustryForum.com. The 2026 SCME Industry Forum, delivering Indo-Pacific readiness.
My name is Emma. I am 13 years old. 6 years ago, I was injured in a car accident that left me paralyzed from the waist down. Once I completed rehab, my mom applied for a canine companion service dog. Last January, I finally got to meet my service dog, Marcia. We quickly developed a very strong bond. Together, we go to my horseback riding lessons, school band practice, swim meets, and archery classes. Together, we pick vegetables, and we like to cut flowers. I love Marcia. She makes me feel like together we can do anything. I can't imagine life without her. She's a part of the family. We are just one of the thousands of teams Canine Companions has paired together over the past 50 years. With your help, we can continue for another 50. Visit canine.org to see the many ways you can change lives.
I can tell that we are gonna be friends.
The road to Adelup is here, and this time we spoke with Democrat candidates, Senator Torius Terlahi and Senator Sabina Perez. Here is your opportunity to hear how they plan to govern Guam. Watch the conversation on Wave 105's YouTube channel, dated May 28th. This is a Glimpses of Guam radio station.
When a warrior faces adversity, he fights through it. He finds a way. Freedom isn't free. Rolling strong. Belief. Believe you can, and you will.
Wheelchairs for Warriors provides mobility solutions to veterans and first responders injured in the line of duty. Join the mission and visit wheelchairsforwarriors.org.
Here for the community. Wave 105 FM.
Hey.
Welcome back. Viva Betness! Time for your, your second half of the Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness Center hour. And so in studio with us again is Paul Mendoza and Isa. Thank you so much for hanging out with us.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, and so we're talking about AOT, Assistant Outpatient Treatment. And so Paul mentioned the court orders, right, for consumers that are in the program, in the assisted outpatient treatment program. And so if we can kind of touch on that part, when we hear the word legal or court ordered mixed with mental health, sometimes, that red flag will go up, right? And so are we locking somebody away? Are we arresting them?
No, not at all. So I'm glad you brought that up because I want to clear this for everyone. AOT is not at all about institutionalizing anyone, and we are completely separate from the criminal court system.
Okay.
So what AOT is a civil court mechanism. So instead of having someone go to a hospital bed or locked up in a facility, the court will issue an order that would commit that individual to outpatient treatment. And it would basically say, hey, you get to live your life, you get to stay at home and keep your independence, but legally, you need to participate in your recovery plan.
Okay. And what is I don't know. I don't want to get too detailed in people's health care and mental health program, but what does a recovery plan look like?
So it would be what we call a multidisciplinary wraparound care model.
Okay.
So it's a team, or it's when someone joins AOT, they're not just given medication and then say, hey, we'll see you in 3 months. We assign, we're as a whole team, like I mentioned, clinicians, case managers, family support specialists, counselors, and we are a dedicated team for that consumer. And when they're assigned to us, we will, do a complete assessment of that consumer's condition, their diagnoses, and then we would curate an entire treatment program based on their needs, and if they would need multiple checkups within the week, or if they just need help keeping their medication up, if they're looking for housing or food assistance. It would be a person-to-person basis, but for the most part, our treatment plan for that consumer would be curated around what they would need most around that time.
All right. And so, I mean, I really enjoy learning more from both of you, right? And so now I'm really curious about pathways to get into your profession. And so is it through social work? How did you get from, I don't know, from one education program to where you're at right now to assist?
Well, AOT is actually a federally funded grant from SAMHSA. That's the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Administration.
Okay.
Sorry. And so really government agencies, they have their own local programs, right? So we're federally funded by federal and competitive. So we're funded by federal, right? And you really just have to kind of write for a grant or a program that you see would really what's the word I'm looking for? Sorry, it's a brain fog.
No worries.
That would really help out the community.
Sure, yeah.
So like with us, it would be AOT.
Yeah.
And we wrote
also,
for that.
you built this within Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness Center?
No, so it's a grant that is funded under SAMHSA.
Got it.
And so we wrote for it.
Okay.
Our project director,
Got
Marie,
it. Yeah.
she wrote for it, and we were awarded. So it is just, if you get the acceptance
Sure.
and then the award, then you can start the program. So really, it's just like the first year is getting all the logistics and everything, the framework of our program laid out, and then we can take on consumers.
Nice. Well, I'm grateful that we have a program that even exists, but even more so, I'm grateful for staff, the people that are within the program that are assisting, right? Because what good is a program if you don't have compassionate people in the community that are willing to do this very important work? Yeah. And so, I mean, is understanding that you're under the big umbrella of Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness Center, but you're a very small team, right? Yeah. And so you're relying on, like, I don't know how many people?
There are currently 5 of us.
Wow.
Literally a handful.
That's literally a handful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just kind of need that because it's intensive.
Sure.
So we just really need a small team of, again, dedicated people so that we can work very closely with one another.
Okay.
Maybe a consumer might need counseling. Maybe not, right? But for those who do need counseling, like we would be talking to their counselor to make sure that we're all on the same page of what's going on with them and what is needed to better help them.
And so when you look at this, so it's also important that you focus on your own mental health, right? Right. And so are there any skills set that you can share with our community, especially after something so stressful of a storm? How do how do you make sure that your mental health is taken care of? Any advice?
Well, one of the things that helps me the most is I have 4 dogs.
Nice.
So I end up just hanging out with them. Sometimes I do actually talk to them about my day.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, it's just, it helps just to have them hanging out.
Yeah?
Yeah, and for the most part, they help me kind of decompress throughout the day.
What are their names?
So I have, there's Pico, he's my oldest dog, and then we have Kobe, and then we have Milo, he's a golden retriever, and we have, lastly, is Suki, she is a Pomeranian.
There you go. Wow, that's a mix of different breeds and everything.
We love dogs.
Whole lot
Yeah.
of them.
Even you, Issa, you got,
Yes.
yeah?
I have a little Shih Tzu. His
Same.
name is Stony.
Stony, mine is Rocket. From
Rocket.
Guardians of the
Oh,
Galaxy.
that's a good one.
And then we have a bigger dog. He's an American bulldog, and so he's Drax, and yeah,
that's fitting.
and he destroys everything in the house.
Well, that's why they
Yeah.
call him Drax the Destroyer.
Yeah. So that's cool. Issa, is there anything else is there something else that's important to you that allows you to focus on your mental health?
Oh, sleep.
Sleep, yeah,
You know,
same.
you get it where you can, even if it's just a
Same,
quick
yeah.
power nap. But I too love playing with my dogs.
Yeah.
I also have a couple down at my grandma's house, so every other day or so I'll go and check on them and make sure
Right.
they're doing good, and I just give them a lot of love.
Very cool. And so, even though you have a very small team, outside of that, you have an even bigger team, right? That includes psychiatrists, clinicians, dedicated case managers, peer support specialists, right? And so, and then people who have also walked similar paths that can relate on a deep and personal level. And so you really do have a whole entire squad in your corner, right? And then, so that's pretty impressive, to be honest with you. And so, I don't know if there's anything else that we want to touch on. I know that we focused a lot on transportation and assisting patients in finding their rides to HQ. And are there any other clinics around the island that they would go to besides Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness Center that's associated with what you do?
Is like similar to our level of intensity?
Yeah, I don't know, because you mentioned medication, right? And so where do they usually? Is it always at Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness Center?
Not necessarily.
no.
We
Yeah.
also have our partners, like our community partners, like West Care.
Yeah.
There's also Blue Ocean.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's for if you have those mental illness and concerns, then you can take them there too.
Yeah.
Like Guam Behavioral is we're just a community, the big community, but these are more like private.
Sure.
So sometimes they would just feel more comfortable going there, but we get the bulk of everybody on the island.
And when you talk about those clinics that are outside of Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness Center, I imagine you're practically on a first name basis with them as well, right?
Yeah.
And so they are part of the wraparound services. You have a whole community outside of Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness Center. I think even just storefronts can be a big help too, right? It adds to the normal life when an individual can just go into a store, purchase food, say hello to the cashier, and go on with their day, and then also work. I think work is how big of how well do you help with employers or assist with employers? Is that part of it or no?
Well, if they say that they want a job, then we can ask them, okay, what are you looking for? Do you want to do something for in the stores? Do you want to try to do a little bit more body work or with construction?
Oh, yeah.
Talk to me, what interests you the most, and then we can see how we can get you there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so is it really? Do you even go to the workplace?
We would go with them
Yeah?
to. There's also eye care. So they help specifically for individuals with a mental illness to like the capacity that they are able to work. Much
Sure.
of it is like, doing janitorial things,
Sure.
cleaning, things of that sort. But they do want to help with like making sure that they can do this. And we do have many consumers who, they have the drive. Like they really want to work. They don't want to stay home and just watch TV or just, be at home. They want to be out there and they want to be productive while, handling their mental illness. So I commend them.
Very cool. I'm also hoping that there are a good amount of opportunities as well, because that can also be challenging. That can also kind of hurt somebody's self-esteem too, where they're getting rejected. Like, I want to work, but nobody wants to hire me. And so sometimes that even just goes back to just support again with a family member or a friend that says, you know what, we're just going to keep trying. That can affect somebody's mental health even more so, and they can spiral even if they're constantly getting rejected. Yeah. Let me see here. It's 2:47 in the afternoon. So let's talk about again. I think we touched on transportation, right? It can be a big issue, and it sounds like we have strategies to make sure that they're getting to their appointments, that they're getting to where they need to be, right? And so if we can touch on who's over at the court, who's assisting and making sure that everybody understands what the goal is, and not arresting an individual and they're going to a holding cell and ultimately going to DOC. Like, do you get also social workers at the judicial system? What does that service look like?
Okay, so to answer that question, actually, I would have to explain the process for how someone would be part of our program.
Okay.
Yeah. So for example, let's say someone has a severe mental health crisis, and then they are brought to our main facility at Guam Behavioral, and then they get the screening completed, and then they would be admitted into our facility, and then at that point, the psychiatrist then would complete a psychological evaluation of that person, and if they are a candidate for AOT, that psychiatrist will create a petition that would flow from Guam Behavioral's legal system to the AG, and then the AG signs off, and it will go to the Supreme Court. And then that petition would need to be, and then the court then would establish a court hearing within the 7 days that the petition was written for that consumer. And then at that point, everyone who was involved in that petition, so like the psychiatrist, the case manager, so like the rest of the AOT team would come in, and then we would listen to the court hearing, and then we would have the judge pass the ruling whether or not they would be fit for AOT. So that at that section, then they would be kind of ordered for AOT treatment, and then that's when we can do the treatment program planning for that consumer, touch base with them and their families. So it's a lengthy process.
Sure.
Yeah.
In the beginning, though, does it look like an issue escalated, either at a workplace or at a home or in the village, and police are called?
Sadly, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would take like a, repeated crisis or multiple admissions to be looking at this individual and say like, they've been in many times. Like, let's look at everything else that would check all the boxes. Do they qualify for AOT? And so then starting there with the petition, and the whole process goes on, then they would get into our program.
Okay.
But it is sad to say that it would, whether it was a major crisis or not, if they're admitted,
sure,
it's for a reason, right? So
sure,
then they are evaluated, and then if they fit it, then the criteria, then they
right,
come to us.
And the psychiatrist and the clinician, I mean, when we think about their role in society, we understand that they have all of the expertise and they have the certifications, and the judges know this too, right? And so they work hand in hand, and they are saying, okay, based on the psychiatrists, they need to be in a clearly a safer environment and not a jail cell, right? Yeah. And so what does that look like? Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness Center, other divisions come in play before they're in your care?
So it would seem like that because they would need to have that history of non-adherence to treatment. So they would have been under someone else, but then they were constantly non-compliant with their treatment. They ghosted their caseworker. They just completely disappeared off the face of the island. And then they come back, and then when we look through, like what Isa mentioned, we'll look at their history, and then we would see that, oh, this person has a long history of coming to Guam Behavioral Health, getting admitted, and he is very clearly not adhering to his own treatment program. And then he has the diagnosis of like schizophrenia or schizoaffective disorder, for example, and he has that long history. Then that would checkmark all the boxes, and then that would jumpstart the full process.
Understood. And so when we look at look at any scenario holistically, right? That's why the program needs to continue to exist, right? And you shared that it's a federal grant, and so you have to go back.
Either reapply, hopefully get it. If not, then we're thinking about somehow sustaining the program locally. But that's way in the future. We'll see. But let's just see how well we do with this one, and the success of it would show like we need to continue.
Sure, yeah. Absolutely. The worry is that the federal government might move too slow, and then we need to make sure that your clients, your consumers, don't lose that support, or there's a pause in funding, and then they're left wondering, what do we do? I remember there was an issue with Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness Center and their preventative programs, that they lost funding overnight. And then there was this huge outcry nationwide that said, you absolutely should not do that. And thank goodness that a number of senators from the Capitol came together and said, we're not going to stand for this. And then it was brought back, right?
Yes.
And so and so I think also just having these kinds of conversations and sharing that there are a number of people in our community that rely on these services. And so I hope that we don't have to pay for it internally. However, it's important. So if we're going to, we understand the reasons to do so. Yeah. Is this fairly new? AOT?
Yes.
Wow. Okay. All right. I definitely want to continue to keep track of this program, because just hearing from both of you and listening to the services that you provide under AOT, I'm excited to hear how you can grow. Especially, you said 5, right?
Yeah.
5 individuals. All right. Well, is there anything else that we want to touch on? I want to be able to share some of the specifics, if that's okay. I think we even touched on a candidate, right? I think we already hit on what a ideal candidate for the AOT program is. And so you did talk about high tier level of care designed for adults living with severe and persistent mental illnesses. Can you go through those conditions again? You said schizophrenia and
schizophrenia, schizoaffective disorder, or severe bipolar disorder. Yeah, anything that would be considered like a severe mental illness, and they've had like a long history with it, and it would, to the point where it would like almost impact their day-to-day function.
Right. And maybe you can help me understand that these are disorders or illnesses, and they don't encompass the person.
No,
right?
absolutely
Because you experience it, right? And so they're human beings, right? And they have so much to offer. And we obviously understand this, right?
Yes.
And so just generalizing, what kind of what does that look like? What's the makeup look like of a person that is suffering with a disorder like that, however can live a very normal life?
I'm sorry. I'm a little.
Well,
yeah,
you know,
sorry.
because again, independence, right? We're looking at independence, and we're looking at we can't look at the disease and say,
yes,
you are bipolar. We have to separate that, and why? Because they're a human being.
Yeah.
They love just like we love. They care just like we care. They are part of our family. They're part of our community, right? Yeah. And so when you're having conversations with the individual, what does that look like? And how do you relate to them?
So a lot of the times when these consumers would be having these conversations, you know, they feel like they're not very heard. They're trying, you can tell that they're clearly trying to share something, but they don't know how to communicate it properly. And the important thing that we found is that it's just really trying to be patient with them, trying to understand what they're repeating necessarily. Like the ones that they're repeating are the words that are the words that they're trying to share the most. So it takes a lot of patience and a lot of like diligence on our end to kind of understand this person, because we know that this isn't what they're, you know, what they're saying or how they're reacting isn't the intent necessarily of their actions. They want to, like you mentioned, they want to love, they want to seek help, they want to do all of this, but their mind is being you know,
it's like jumbled.
Yeah, it's jumbled. It's flooded with so many other thoughts, so many other things, paranoia. Just a lot of those emotions are overwhelming them constantly, but they're trying to reach out, and them even ending up in our, you know, in our care at the first place is already shows that there's people out there, whether it's them themselves or their family, their friends, they're having them come to us to seek those assistance, because there's, at the end of the day, either they care about themselves and or other people care about them as well.
Absolutely. And so if we can learn more about how to get in touch with you, you have a number, right?
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
So you can call our main AOT program line directly at 671-646-0331. That's 671-646-0331.
Okay.
And you can also check our website at gbhwc.guam.gov, gbhwc.guam.gov, so you can read up more on the program's details. And you're also welcome to just come by the facility, and we'd be happy to share the information in person.
Okay. And so the facility is where?
Oh, in Tamuning.
Yes. At the main headquarters.
At the main facility, yes.
So
nice.
You would just really have to come in, like if you're really seeking services, just do a full-on intake and see if you meet criteria as well.
Right.
Yes.
Very cool. Yeah. And so your brochure also shares coping strategies and self-care tips, right? It's okay to say no. It's okay to take breaks and step away when you need to. Make sure to get enough sleep. Rest is not a luxury. Eat regular meals, fuel your body and brain, move your body, stretch, walk, or dance, practice deep breathing or prayer, calm your mind, write it out. Journaling can reduce stress. Talk to a friend, a peer, or a counselor. Join a support group, and because others do understand, and make time for something you enjoy, music, hobbies, fresh air. Remember, taking care of yourself is not selfish. It is necessary, and you do deserve support, and that support comes from AOT.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you want to share?
I think we covered.
Right? We have your phone number, and we'll make sure we continue to share that. 647 5330.
646-0331.
Oh.
Yeah.
0331. 0331. Well, thanks for coming in. You guys got any special plans for the weekend? What am I doing? I have a reunion I'm going to tomorrow at EPAL.
Oh, how
Are any of you
fun.
Castros?
No.
Okay, so we're not related
Yeah.
then.
Sorry.
Sounds fun though.
Yeah, it's going to be at EPAL. There's going to be a whole lot of people. And so that's really also what it is about, right? If you are looking for a way to, I wouldn't even, because you do deserve your own peace, right? And so how can you help your loved one or somebody that really needs all the support? How can you help them if you're not finding your own peace and your own stability? And so you need to find balance as well. And so understanding that you have the AOT team, both of you, then you are encouraged to reach out, right? Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming in. I really appreciate this. Kevin's right outside too. Always appreciate Kevin over at Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness Center. And so we look forward to another hour next week, Friday, which is the 17th. If I don't see you sooner, happy Liberation Day. That's on the 21st. That's a Tuesday. So if you guys aren't coming in next week, Friday, then happy Liberation Day.
Viva.
All right. All right, KGUM-FM in Dededo, Guam. We're going to take the break. Thanks again to Paul and Isa.
AP News, I'm Ben Thomas. The death of Lorenzo Salgado Araujo this week in Houston has prompted Mexico to request criminal charges be filed over the 17 Mexicans who have died in ICE custody or during Trump administration immigration enforcement operations. Ed Donahue has details.